Welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents, brought to you by Anders Virtual CFO Services team from all across the United States. I'm John Scott, and in each episode, we'll shine a light on the financial side of the legal world, turning law firm numbers into impact-driven stories. From taxes and profitability to practice growth and leadership, we sit down with law firm innovators who are shaping the future of the profession. Let's dive in, right here on Judicial Dollars and Cents. Hey, and welcome back to Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. I'm John Scott with Anders Virtual CFO Services for law firms, and each week we sit down with successful attorneys, legal innovators, and business leaders to explore what it really takes to build a thriving firm. We go beyond the courtroom to discuss leadership, profitability, operations, marketing, technology, AI, and the strategies that help firms grow, scale, and create lasting value. Whether you are a managing partner, an emerging firm leader, or simply passionate about the future of the legal profession, our goal is to provide practical insights you can put to work immediately. Today, we are honored to welcome Elysia Prendergast-Jones. Elysia is the managing attorney of the Raleigh office of Legal Aid of North Carolina, where she leads attorney and staff dedicated to expanding access to justice for individuals and families who otherwise might not be able to afford legal representation. As a North Carolina board-certified specialist in family law, her practice focuses on family law and domestic violence, helping clients navigate some of life's most difficult, emotionally charged circumstances. Beyond her legal practice, Elysia has become one of North Carolina's most respected leaders in the legal profession. She serves in numerous leadership roles with the Wake County Bar Association and the North Carolina Bar Association, including pro bono chair of the NCBA Family Law Section, co-chair of the For All Lawyers on Call, and treasurer of the Family Law Section. She is also deeply committed to mentoring future lawyers through Campbell University School of Law, serving as both a mentor and mock trial judge. Elysia, welcome to Judicial Dollars and Cents.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
You know, as listeners of the show understand, I love people's origin stories. So tell me, what took you to law school, and then what took you to public service law?
I actually wanted to be a lawyer since I was 3 years old and had no idea what lawyers did. So once I said that and decided I didn't want to be a doctor, I just went with it. And then my identity kind of became, hey, she's going to be a lawyer. And I was excited that I went through so many steps to do it. Although I didn't go straight to law school after undergrad, I went to get my graduate degree in counseling psychology and then went straight into law school after that. I then wanted to just practice law after knowing what it was. So public service. Interestingly, I went to a law school that was dedicated to public service. And I interned at the same office that I manage now at Legal Aid of the Raleigh office, thanks to my managing attorney back then that offered me an internship. And ever since then, it had always been a passion of mine to work with these clients. So there I am.
Well, it is a unique background. You have a psychology degree, counseling degree as well, and business administration, which is unique for attorneys. Most folks don't have that business background, which is where we come in to help them run the finances of their law firm. But I love the fact that you have this diverse background. And I want to explore something that we didn't talk about beforehand, but because my daughter is a public service attorney and she went to a school that encouraged that as well, there are governmental programs that help with debt forgiveness, but those seem to be in flux right now. What's the status of those programs, or do you know?
So they're changing the requirements for that, and they are trying to do away with some of that. It's kind of in flux. They're actually they changed the SAVE program, which was one of the programs that made your repayment cost a lot lower. But now they are going into different IDR programs to hopefully help keep some of those programs lower. The requirement to get your loans forgiven is 10 years. So luckily, in January, I was able to get all of my loans forgiven. So living a better life right now.
That's awesome. Do you know if the changes they're focusing on are prospective, or are they trying to, people that are in the middle of those 10 years, are they changing the rules on them?
That's difficult to say because they are trying to, but right now they're still current with the 10-year loan forgiveness. So it may be something that we will see in the future, depending on what's going on with the climate of our government. I really don't know. But hopefully the people that are in the middle of it can still get that loan forgiveness.
It really is an important incentive to incent folks to go into public service. And it's not just attorneys. I mean, we need doctors and hospitals in rural areas. So in order to attract those folks to take a lower salary, I mean, there has to be some sort of incentive to do that. So I hope that does continue going forward. Let's talk about your, I'll call it firm, your organization, Legal Aid in North Carolina. How have you all embraced the artificial intelligence?
So we now use LexisNexis product that uses an artificial intelligence to help write memos, to help write letters, to do research, which is really cool. I'm excited about that new opportunity that we've had just in the last few months. I've actually used it to help with a memo and a letter to a client. We also have something called Justice Hub, which is an AI tool to help with intake. And what it does is it kind of processes people when they're going through, do we offer these services, or are you able to get these services? And it'll tell you up front whether you qualify or not, even before you take the time to get to a lawyer.
That's wonderful. And I think that AI, although early on, and a lot of young people are predicting doom and gloom from AI, I'm hoping that we use it ethically to help us be more efficient and replace some of the mundane, repeatable things. And of course, keep the human oversight and review so that we can be assured of our work product. Legal aid plays an incredibly important role in our justice system, and many people don't fully understand what legal aid actually does. Can you explain how legal aid changes lives and gives access to legal representation and why that is so important?
Sure. So one of the things that people don't realize, legal aid is a litigation firm. So our attorneys, most of them are in court constantly, and we represent clients that otherwise couldn't afford the services. So for instance, in North Carolina, people aren't afforded an attorney for civil cases. So even domestic violence cases or custody cases, you think about some of those where people, not everyone can afford a $250 to $500 an hour attorney, but they need those services because they're so vital. That's one of the things that legal aid attorneys can step in and do, especially housing eviction cases, all of those cases that if you had that attorney right there, your outcomes are going to be totally different in most cases. And with domestic violence cases, that's a safety issue. So having that ability to be able to help somebody get to safety, that makes a big impact in their life, or keep them housed, where otherwise, if they went into court on their own, they may face that eviction even with no evidence against them.
Well, and there's a huge difference between being evicted and working out something with the landlord where you can move out, because if you're evicted, you're kicked off the Section 8 rolls for a number of years until you could get back in, and then you really don't have many options. So I want to talk about, since your folks do a lot of litigation, other than by trial and error, how do they improve their storytelling skills? How do they improve their presence in a courtroom without making those mistakes? Are there any exercises or programs that you help young attorneys go through to get that courtroom presence? I realize it's got to be trial and error, but there's got to be some soft skills they can get to make them more comfortable.
Sure. So we do mock trial trainings. And one of the things that I do is have attorneys practice in getting evidence into court, litigating, even litigating cases that aren't in their particular field. So, like my housing attorneys can litigate or learn to litigate a domestic violence or a family law case so they can be well rounded. And we do a lot of CLEs, so continuing legal education classes, so they can learn the substantive area and prep. We have really strict oversight. So when you're first coming in, we want to know, how are you preparing for this case? How are your questions going? How is that judge going to look at you when you walk in there? And really try to mentor attorneys, have them shadow attorneys when they're going in. I think all of those things are really important to have great litigators and continue to do that.
I think that's great advice. Hey, so you've served in numerous leadership positions within the bar and within your community. For younger attorneys wanting to become leaders within the profession and in their community, where should they begin? What advice would you give them?
Volunteering at their local leaderships or local bar associations. So, for instance, I volunteered on the CLE committee at WCBA, or Wake County Bar Association, and then it led to me doing a little bit more. I became treasurer for years. Now I'm on the board. And then with North Carolina Bar Association, I started going to events and just showing up, because that's one of the battles, is showing up. I was able to be in rooms with people that otherwise I wouldn't have been afforded to, like our Supreme Court justices that volunteered. And then showing up also led me to start leading different organizations. And once you get into that position of leading one, then you get asked to do others. And that's what happened with me. I started doing some, and then my work product showed out for me. And then I started being asked to do more and more. And saying yes actually increases your ability to be more well rounded and for people to see you as a leader.
I smiled a little bit when you said just showing up, because I've told my kids, they're all adults now, but from when they were 5 on up, that 90% of life is showing up. The other 10% is caring in your effort. So I know that you probably don't do recruiting now, but at some point in your career at Legal Aid, you were involved in recruiting and interviewing. What characteristics are you looking from a law student who's applying to legal aid to be a good fit and a good legal aid attorney?
Oh, that's a great question, because we actually just did interviews for some legal aid attorneys in our office. And one of the things that I really want is dedication. They don't have to know everything because we train, but you have to be dedicated to helping people, to have that empathy for people, to want to be able to help the people that are coming in there in high stress situations, really trauma informed, or wanting to learn trauma informed lawyer. And that's the kind of lawyers that we need here and that we look for.
There's a family law firm here in St. Louis that has a trauma focus as well, and they've actually hired a psychologist to work with their clients who are going through divorce, because family law is just so I can't imagine doing it, because as an attorney, it's difficult for the two parties who are involved, that they're just hating each other and trying to rip each other apart and separate property. But it has to be just draining on the attorney as well. So that counseling piece that you all offer is so important. Hey, although your organization operates differently than the traditional for-profit law firm, I'm sure that you have some advice for someone wanting to start a law firm, a young attorney that's maybe worked for a different firm and now wants to go out on their own. What advice would you give them in beginning their firm?
Sure. I had run private law firms before I came into public interest, and having something that's unique to catch people, that's a great tool, not being the same person as everyone else. I have a friend that's just started a new law firm again, and she does a ton of advertisements that other attorneys in the family law don't do, such as, hey, these are common myths about separating or divorce or custody, and then constantly getting in front of people doing things. Also, having referral system. So getting into those positions where you show up for those organizations, other people will see that you showed up, and then they'll start to trust you to be able to send you referrals. And then going into court and always being prepared. I see so many young attorneys that are not prepared. And I've had judges come to me and be like, hey, can you mentor these people or can you set them up for mentor services? Because they're coming in and horrible. You walk in that day and you're representing somebody you never even talked to. That's ridiculous. So going in there, learning that stuff, always being on time, being prepared. Those are the things I would love to tell younger attorneys.
You're so right about being prepared. I have a now retired partner who did expert witness. He was a forensic accountant and he did a lot of expert witness testimony. And most of his work came from the same attorneys, but many times he was hired by opposing counsel on the next matter because he did such a good job against their client. Hey, let's talk about some rapid fire questions. What's the one book every attorney should read?
I don't know. I read so many. I just read a lot of, gosh, true stories and learning from
True crime stories?
true crime, but autobiographies, learning from others really helps. Hey, this person made mistakes. How can I change that? Or this person was successful. How do I become that kind of a person? So those kind of books, I don't really have one in particular that I think somebody should do. I think it's really unique to that person and what skills you're trying to build.
Assume that you're home all weekend with nothing to do and no responsibilities, and you're going to settle in and watch Netflix or Prime or one of the streaming services. What series are you going to binge watch?
I just watched Worst Neighbor Ever. Really cool.
What is that on?
It's on Netflix. So I love shows like that are craziness, but true stories. And you never know what people are going to do. So those are things that you'll see and never know what people are going to do. But real life sometimes is so much better than books or fantasy.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received from a mentor?
Your reputation walks in before you do, so make sure you guard it.
That is so true because you can't get back your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you balance all the things that you do? You're an attorney, a leader, a mentor, you volunteer, you speak, you're a mother. How do you balance all this?
A calendar. I work really long hours. I prioritize things that I need to, such as, hey, my daughter has a presentation on the 24th of July. It's an hour and a half away. I change my calendar so I can show up for that. But really balancing things and showing up, prioritizing what needs to be done. I say yes most of the time to things, but I also make sure I have a space to be able to do it. And I don't say yes.
You have to learn when to say no as well.
Yeah, you don't say yes to things that you know you can't show up for or be prepared for. So sometimes it is saying no.
So speaking of your daughter, tell me about her unique education and what she plans to do with that.
So she is a biological engineer major with a full scholarship to our honors college. So I am excited for her. She is doing an internship in bio nanotechnology at the moment with some other stuff. that is run by a lab that is co-founded by NASA and the Department of Defense along with her school. And she plans to go straight from undergrad to a PhD program in the same program that she's working with now. So really proud of her. Don't know how she's doing it or what she's doing because it's so complicated. But excited.
Don't tell anyone. I don't understand any of that. So
yeah.
That's awesome. She sounds like she's very intelligent and has a bright future. And what an underachiever. I'm just kidding. Holy cow. That's great. So when your career is finished, what are you going to do?
I want to travel. I want to travel some more. I love traveling overseas and being able to have that freedom to see other cultures. I went to school in Spain for a semester in undergrad. It was really cool to learn that culture and being able to see others.
Were you in Madrid or Barcelona for school?
I was in Trujillo, and then it's in the middle of the country. And then I went to Madrid for the rest of my classes.
Did you travel at all while you were there?
I did. I went to Portugal and all over Spain.
Did you go to Granada?
I did not.
Oh, if you ever get back to Spain, go to Granada. The Alhambra's there, and it was created by Muslims thousands of years ago. And of course, the Crusades came in and the Christians took it over. They kept all the architecture, so it's uniquely Muslim, all mathematical, but then they put a cross on the top. So it is, you could spend a week touring the Alhambra. It's a fantastic place. My daughter was there for a year and a half between undergrad and law school teaching English. And so we went towards the end of her trip and went to Madrid and Alicante and then down to Granada. I would go back there in a heartbeat. Speaking of travel, you recently went to Indonesia. Tell me about your experience there beyond your speaking event, but tell me about Indonesia and their culture.
Yeah, I had a fellowship from the State Department. So that was really cool. And the people were so warm and inviting. The first thing that we did when I got there was they took me to their food and their culture through food. And I will tell you, different parts of Indonesia, the food was totally different. Because I was in Jakarta and Bali at different times, and that is one of the things that they show love through is food. I also got the opportunity to go to the Luwak Center where they had the animals that excrete the coffee beans and try those. It was a weird experience, but it was something I always wanted to try. But it was cool.
Please tell me they wash the beans.
They do. They wash it several times. So I was able to see that process, which was cool, and taste it. I can't say it tasted much different than others, but it was just an experience.
Yeah, I would need to see the washing too before I drank that coffee. Hey, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate it. Before we wrap up, Elysia, how can folks get a hold of you or your firm?
Sure. LegalAidNC.org. And I'm on the website if you look down under managers of the offices. And they could also see what kind of services that we provide and a little bit about us. They also have a TikTok, an Instagram, and a Facebook. Now the handles, I'm not sure, but if you look up Legal Aid of North Carolina, it's easy to find.
All right. Well, we will tag you and try and find those other socials and tag it when we put this out on that as well. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for your service to the community in your work at Legal Aid. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for tuning in to Judicial Dollars and Cents, where the business of law meets the practice of law. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Better yet, share this episode with another law firm leader who could benefit from today's discussion. Thanks for joining us on Judicial Dollars and Cents, presented by Anders Virtual CFO Services. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. To learn more about how Anders helps law firms strengthen their financial foundations and drive growth, visit anderscpa.com. Until next time, keep making smart decisions that make perfect sense.